Never said I was a victim of circumstance. I still belong. Wake up with yourself. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, today I am back with a Stepford Wives review. Now, keep in mind, I'm reviewing the one that came out in 1975. I was actually able to watch it last night on YouTube for free, and I will try to link the video in the description box. But yeah, this is the one from 1975. I believe Ira Levin wrote it, and it was made into a film. Sorry, my hair is bothering me. It's getting in my face. But I felt like that this movie was really a social commentary. And you got to keep in mind when it came out in 1975, a lot of America in the West was in the second wave of feminism, which meant they were now wanting to, in my understanding, it's past the first wave, which was the whole suffragette movement and women being able to hold property, but it wasn't the third wave like we have today, where we have the wage gap quite, and we have, abortion laws to be passed. It was kind of in between. Women were starting to work more outside of the home. So you got to keep in mind this was released during that time period when women were starting to work outside of the home and women were thinking, having second thoughts about the whole traditional housewife and children thing. So the Stepford Wives, yeah. And it is a social commentary. And I noticed, like, throughout the story, the main character, I can't think of her name right now, but the main character, she doesn't want to move to Stepford in the first place, but her husband kind of sort of goes behind her back and makes it so that he already has made the decision for them, really, and he's just, I guess, trying to make himself feel better by saying, oh, by the way, what do you think about this place? Do you want to move? Oh, by the way, I already bought it. So yeah, kind of like that. And she's really quiet and agreeable in the beginning, and she doesn't really want to stir the nest kind of housewife, and she goes along with just about everything her husband says. But as time begins to go on and she sees she doesn't enjoy being in Stepford, and she sees these other housewives who have personalities. Like one lady, she played tennis, her friend, her very tall friend, she did things, and their personalities start to disappear from them. So it alarms her, and she's becoming more and more suspicious throughout the film until the climax about what's happening to her friends. Why are they going from these women who have personalities and interesting things about them to these housewives that only want to cook and clean and, you know, be the best wife that they could be. There's actually a scene in the movie where her and her tall friend, uh, they were trying to get a women's club organized, just like there's a men's club in the town. And they stopped by one woman's house, and her and her husband were putting on for the city in there, and they could hear it. And she was just like, "Oh, you're just you're the king," just really sounding like she was really enjoying herself in there. And that was another red flag for her, because it's like the men in the town were rather unattractive to average looking that had these gorgeous wives. So it's like she was thinking, like, how is he able to do this? Like, how did, it just wasn't adding up for her. I think the commentary was basically saying that women had to dumb themselves down, so to speak, in order to not threaten their man. And that's explaining why you didn't really see any more of their individual personalities after a while, because they got replaced with robots, unfortunately. during the climax of the story when the main character, the lady, gets kind of trapped in her own house by her husband, and he was drinking again, and he was shouting at her and trying to keep her locked in the house. I think one can look past the surface and see that it's a metaphor for the idea that love doesn't really exist. Unfortunately, it's 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 as if to say, like, the man, her husband, was in on this whole operation the entire time, and he was willing to have her killed and replaced with a robot. So I think, and furthermore, it says something about how the author thinks of men. Like, they kind of paint men as the bad guy. Well, at least in this scenario, it does. So that was interesting. The movie portrayed her husband as a monster, like I said, kind of conniving and controlling, because he would go and make decisions without consulting her first, or at least hearing what she has to say. He would tell her about stuff after the fact. So that was just not the. It doesn't really give him brownie points in this review. Um, and it's also social commentary about the feminist movement during that time. Women just wanted to have a say so, really, in their day to day lives, instead of being controlled by their husbands. This was around the advent of the pill and birth control, and women were working outside of the home and stuff and going to college. So you have to keep that in mind when viewing this. Oh yes, the billionaire man in the Stepford Wives, the movie, he was taking pictures. He made a comment early in the film that I thought was kind of weird, but I didn't say anything at first because I wanted to see how the characters would react to him. One day she was in her kitchen doing something, and he comes in and says, "I like watching women do domestic things," or something to that extent. And I thought that was pretty funny. And it also turns out he was having her watched, and an artist man was sketching her, and have another guy was asking her to record herself speaking, which was a bad idea because he later used that. They later used all these things they gathered about her to create the robot that was to replace her. So, um, even though that's a quite extreme example, it's still, I guess, in enough time, science could possibly make it possible to do that. And sorry about that again, fam. But yeah, that's kind of about it. All I wanted to say about the Stepford Wives. It was an excellent movie. It was good. Honestly, if I were to give it out of a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being the worst movie I ever saw and 10 being the absolute best movie I ever saw, I would give it A, because it's suspense, thriller, horror, and I like that kind of stuff. Maybe it could even push the lines of a psycho thriller. Um, Even though it didn't have any blood, guts, and gore, which makes it even better in my book because it didn't need all that stuff and it was still quite scary. Um, to me, it felt like a very long Night Gallery episode, honestly. And that's okay because I like Rod Serling. But I would say it would be a good 6, a good solid 6. So, thank you all for watching.